Hoi.
Hello, sir. Sound is at the correct level this week.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. It can't be bad. And one of the few times I've actually listened back through is like, holy shit, that's bad.
I like that that's the time you pick. That's the fucking time you pick to listen back.
It is the time.
It's the worst episode. Jesus Christ, Neil.
I know.
You kill me. You kill me, sir.
It's a gift.
Yeah, no, it's right. I had the desktop audio turned down for recording on a game and had forgot. I had no sleep. I just forgot to turn it back up when we started recording. And I realized it was down at like minute 45 and turned it back up. And then you start sounding fine. And I was just thinking, he'll just be a little bit quiet. And then when I went into edit, I'm like, oh, you can't fucking hear him.
Can't hear shit.
He is just... It's just half normal podcast, half ASMR bait.
Let me just caress your ear hole for just the briefest of moments.
Just as you was. I like to play the video games.
Just pretend I'm standing right next to you, just whispering in your ear.
I like that your volume going down somehow gives you a British accent. Like a creepy British kid accent. Like, that's great.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zach Rye with Old Man Gaming. You, dear listener, have decided for whatever reason to tune into a horrible gaming podcast. With me at the correct volume levels is...
Neil A.K. Tiny Wizard.
Oh, come on, man. You're killing me. You're not going to think I got it right. I'm sorry, everybody. I was very tired.
I'm here. I'm at normal volume, presumably.
Mistakes were made. I am not nearly as tired. I'm on top of it today. I've got it covered. So we're gonna do a show about our greatest gaming regrets, which I'm very excited about. This was a Neil topic, great topic. Before that, of course, we're gonna cover your fan traction. We're gonna talk about news. We're gonna have a nice old normal show here for you. But before we get into that, we have to thank the people who make this show possible. Behind our ugly mugs, you see a custom graphic that was provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all of the shows here at Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes music, my brother Nick Van Sliders. We thank him for that. We will be right back with Fan Traction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our first segment, our most important segment, that is Fan Traction. That's where we, the co-hosts, we talk to you guys, the fans. We read out your comments wherever we find them. We talk about them. We riff about them. We communicate with you. It's one of the benefits of us being a smaller show. This being said, important news, scheduling news. Neil is taking 2 weeks off from the podcast. His birthday this upcoming weekend, and then the weekend after that he is going on vacation. So what we are going to be doing is this. We are pre-recording 2 episodes, not together. We're pre-recording 1 episode together, and then I'm doing 1 other episode with my good friend, channel person, Grandpa Gamer. We're going to talk about WWE 2K because me and Neil never do. So we're going to have that episode pre-recorded in the other episode. Neither episode will have fan interaction because they will be pre-recorded and recorded at weird times. So please still comment. When Neil comes back in 3 weeks, we will do a full episode on all the fan interaction we missed. Should it be a lot, and we'll get it all out there. So feel free to continue to post and comment and all of that fun stuff. But the next 2 episodes are going to be a little bit wonky, so just keep that in mind. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into fan interaction. William Owen starts us off. Hi! Exclamation point. For this week, I'll only comment on what Neil has said. Hashtag That's what I heard Neil says. Yeah, it was rough. Sorry about that, everybody. I've got the sound correct this time. Apologize. Like I said, Neil did start talking at like minute 45 because I found the problem, but by then most of the show had been gone.
Complete.
So, apologize. Continuing on, Jason then says, I wanted to try Riders Republic. When I did, I never touched it again. I think my brain is too rooted in the young Gen X / old millennial frame to be able to deal with that game. Edit. ADHD the game is a very apt description. Holy shit. Yeah, and I never want to make fun of or light of ADHD for reasons, but I will say this. That game, it is very like, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a thing, colors, colors, colors. Like, it's like an epileptic seizure waiting to happen. It is, I don't know, that game is just, I don't know how there's so many people playing it, honestly. Of the Ubisoft games that hit, I cannot believe that there was that many people playing that game.
Yeah, it's definitely one. I remember whenever it like came out, being like, "Oh, that looks like it'd be like relatively interesting," because I thought it was something that was going to be in the vein of. I remember I loved everything about SSX. I thought it was going to be SSX adjacent, and it doesn't really seem like it.
I thought it was going to be like Tony Hawk. You know, that's what I missed. Was I liked Tony Hawk. I'm not even a skateboarder. I just like that game. But like, it just doesn't seem to do anything right other than the racing, which is confusing to me because it's an extreme sports game. You know, it's just weird. And honestly, I was put off the minute that I realized that skateboarding was a DLC that you had to pay for, while there was jetpacks in the game that you just got for free. I'm like, what world are we living in where I can't like, I have to pay for the skateboarding, but I get
the
jetpacks.
Yeah, it should be the DLC.
Yeah. And the jetpacks are terrible. I'm gonna say this now. They are so fucking awkward and hard to control. It just ruined my experience with it. Okay, continuing. Jason says, Sims 4 is free. I only have to pay for the stuff I want. I like 4's content system better than the last iterations. Like before, if I wanted the vampires, I'd have to get the downtown expansion. In 4, I can get the vampires and not the downtown, or the werewolves without pets, or the pets without werewolves. I've never heard of whatever you said was an alternative. It hasn't come out yet. It's called Inzoi. It's INZOI. I don't know if it's going to be for consoles, but it is I
don't think it'll be for consoles.
It is a very pretty alternative to Sims 4. And I guess that's fair, but Sims 4 hasn't always been free. It was a premium charge, if I recall correctly, for a long period of time.
100%, yes.
I do like the segmenting of the DLC whatnot, but the idea that they're making you pay for mods is a little irritating too. I don't know. I feel that Sims 4 is very predatory, but I mean, that's fair. Like I said, I'm not going to judge anybody for those things. I asked you to give me why you like it, and you did, and I appreciate that, Jason. Thank you very much. Jason. People are playing Pal World because Pokemon has decreased heavily in quality. I disagree with that. Also, it's a different genre. I agree with that. I disagree with the fact that they're playing Pal World because Pokemon is shitty. I think that people who are playing Pokemon and don't want to play Pokemon because it's shitty are not picking up the one with guns. I don't think they are. I think it is much more a different genre that uses Pokemon-like creatures, and I really don't feel like Pal World endangers Pokemon in any way, shape, or form. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm always right. Hell, half the time I am wrong. But I just personally do not feel that Pal World is a danger to Pokemon. I think Pokemon is a danger to Pokemon because their quality continues to decline and become shitty. I think if Pokemon was good, the same amount of people would be playing it. I don't necessarily think the people who have dropped Pokemon are immediately flocking to Pal World. I think that there are plenty of other... I think that they're just not playing Pokemon, you know? I think that, like, the quality of Pokemon is the problem, not the fact that Pal World exists.
I think it gives me vibes of back in the day, like when Pokemon first came out, Digimon showed up, and Digimon tried to. It was a different thing, but kind of along the same vein. Mm-hmm. But I think everybody knew that Digimon was not going to be bigger than Pokemon. But it gave people like that other thing that's kind of like it, but still its own deal. It's a Pokemon Digimon situation. Yeah. Power World is attracting those who like the monster collection sort of idea. With that, like there's been other games that have done stuff like that in different ways. What is it? The Yokai Watch, I think it was. Same sort of thing. You're collecting ghosts, but you're not like throwing a ball at them to capture them.
I still feel that it elicits itself to a much more adult crowd than a Pokemon 100% does. On 100%. Top of that, the game itself, like Power World, is a survival game. It's a survival game. You have to eat, you have to drink, you have to build stuff. It's a survival automation game. Mm-hmm. Pokemon is not that. Pokemon is directly a monster capture and battle game. So like I just don't feel like the people who are super into Pokemon are jumping over to Power World. You know what I mean? I think if they were going to play Power World, they were going to play Power World anyway. It had nothing to do with like that, I guess. I just don't feel like Power World is a direct threat to Pokemon. I think Pokemon is a direct threat to Pokemon.
No, it burst onto the scene because of its similarities in how the creatures are designed.
Right.
Outside of that, if they were designed entirely 100% different, if they didn't even come close to looking like Pokemon do, I feel like we would not be having this conversation.
No.
Nintendo would have not done anything at all. Nintendo feels like the Nintendo / the Pokemon Company are freaking out. They're like, oh my god, there's coming after our Pokemon bag. Like that's not a thing.
No,
it just looks like Pokemon. It's not Pokemon.
I don't think anybody who even jumped over I'm gonna try Power World and jumped into Power World was like, oh, this is what I want to play. You know what I mean? The minute you play that game, it is a completely... I've played both. They're just completely different games, in my opinion. With the exception of capturing monsters in balls, which is the entire theory of... the entire crux of Nintendo's case. I don't feel like they're in any way, shape, or form... Like, the monsters are a little bit similar, but the games themselves are completely different. So, I don't know. It is a different genre, and I think that, Pokemon's real problem is Pokemon's own quality, which in a way is what Jason's saying. I think it's ridiculous. But, continuing. Jason then goes on and says, the last couple of GTA have been very meh. What they did to RDO was inexcusable. Hells to the yeah. GTA 6 just doesn't seem like it's anything more than GTA 5 reset with new hardware to utilize it, and it's just not enough. And, this is the crux, in my opinion, of why we're hitting this crash, why we're in this crash right now. It's because all of these franchises, they're not doing any new ideas. They're just doing a new version of the same game because the hardware is just not advancing far enough. You know what I mean? So you end up in this place where why do I need to buy that? And I think that the consumers are starting to ask themselves, why do I need to buy that? And go ahead.
No, go on. Go ahead. So, in regard to the consoles and everything like that, and your visuals of these games coming out, shame on IGN. Because they recently did we got a hands-on with, oh my god, it's worth every red cent. Go out there, buy this thing as soon as you possibly can. Oh my god, you're never going to see anything better like this. Penny for penny, pound for pound is the best console that you could possibly get out there. After the week prior, bashing, there's absolutely no way. that anyone's going to buy this console at this price, and it's only going to be the people who don't currently have a PS5 that are going to be doing it. They were talking crap about that. They were talking crap about with the PS4 Pro. Mm-hmm. When the PS4 Pro came out, it was the same things that they were saying. It was like, PS4 Pro didn't do great because it was such an install base, and this, that, and the third, just shitting all over the PS5 Pro. And then, of course, they also have the audacity to release the PS1 anniversary versions of these things for scalpers to instantly charge thousands more dollars for these things for schmucks to buy.
I hate that I am becoming like a video game conspiracy theorist, but I personally believe that there was a phone call. Like, IGN released a story about how shitty this price was, and then there was a phone call to IGN about like, hey, do you still want to review our games before they come out? It was like, hey, this is the best game ever, this is the best system ever. And like, I am so sick of this shit. I am so sick of this shit. I'm so sick of the stuff that I see in gaming. Like, it's just the shadiest fucking con artist bullshit on such a high corporate level. The thing is, though, is it's failing them. It's failing them because IGN can jerk off on it all day long. People still have to go out and buy it, and they don't have the money to go out and buy it. And that's the crux of what we were saying 2 weeks ago, is nobody has the fucking money to pay this. And you people think they do. And that's right there is the disconnect. You think that right now, in this current economy, that people have that kind of money. You know? They don't. All right? They don't. Like, it's insane. You'd have to mortgage something to go get that. Like, fuck them and the horse they rode in on. Oh, moving on. Jason then says, I like pumpkin pie, but for the love of all that's holy, pumpkin spice doesn't belong in anything else. Agreed. Maybe a pumpkin roll. My kid really enjoys the pumpkin rolls. I don't like pumpkin pie even, so I can't really speak to it, but people go crazy for that shit. And then finally, that's cheesecake. Fine. Cheesecake is a custard pie. I no longer want to debate with you, Jason, on pies. I feel like we've been talking about pie for like 3 weeks, and we're not even talking about metaphors anymore. We're just talking about straight literal pies. Like it's gonna become the pie. Like, is a cheesecake a pie? I don't want to do it anymore, so I'm just gonna.
Well, no, let's keep it going though. I'm gonna put the nugget out there to keep this thing rolling. What about Boston cream pie? Because a Boston cream pie is definitely a cake.
What? All right, so we'll be right back with the talking point. If you guys want to get your comments on, feel free to do so. We'll read them. But like I said, next 2 weeks.
I was going to say 3 weeks from now, we're going to be still talking about fucking pie.
I know. It's going to drive me nuts. But for the next 2 weeks, no, we're not going to be doing fan traction just because we're going to be pre-recording things and recording things out of sync and stuff like that. So go ahead and comment, though. We will read them when we get back together. All right?
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our talking point. And today's talking point is our biggest gaming regrets. I liked this talking point. This was Neil's talking point. He wanted to put this out. I have a couple. Can I say right off the bat, starting a gaming podcast? I mean, don't get me wrong. I've met so many wonderful people from doing this, and it has definitely been a very positive influence with that sort of social aspect. But the fact that we now cover gaming has ruined a lot of gaming for me when I started this. And I was just like, I like to play video games. And now I'm like chain smoking in a corner. Like, everything sucks. And all they want to do is eat us. Like, the only reason for that is I try and do this show, you know.
You want the games, but you don't want to know how the games are made.
You want that truth. You can't handle the truth.
So yeah, generally speaking, how I was coming at this was just anything gaming related. purchases, games you played, time you put into a game, that sort of stuff, anything gaming related or adjacent to the gaming.
I still have a lot of those, though I will say this. There's going to be some that you're expecting on this list that are not on this list because I actually enjoyed them and wish they had gotten more love. But I do have some, I swear, I will drive to Youngstown. You will never make it to your next birthday.
Oh, God.
Never.
Jesus.
Put that yawn shit away.
I can't.
So yeah, I definitely have some. Do you want me to start? You want to start? How do you want to do this?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll start with one just relatively quickly. It's one that I've lamented quite a few times over the years doing this. It's trading in like old games and stuff like that for multiple reasons. When I was younger, it was the only way that I could really get new games. So I can look at my game collection and the number of games that I have compared to the maximum number of games that I had, comparing that over, the amount of money that we had growing up effectively. I know like Super Nintendo games, there was a point where all I had was just A Link to the Past and Super Mario World for Super Nintendo. There are other ones too that were games that are now actually difficult to come by, and and I'm like, wow, why didn't I keep those? Like Legend of Zelda Master Quest for the GameCube, and Thousand Year Door for the GameCube.
Pricey I know if I go to the exchange right now, A Link to the Past is like $120.
I still have that at least.
Yeah. There you go. But I get that. I don't. That doesn't bother me that much, just because like the situation that you're in, hindsight's 20/20. You only have so much money. You need the new game. How are you gonna get the new game without money? You trade in a game. Yeah. But I understand where you're coming from. I have a really hot take one, if you want me to throw it out there. The Wii.
Go ahead. The Wii.
I regret purchasing the Wii. It was
interesting.
I'm going to say this right now, and I may get some hate from some people, and that's just the way it is. That system fucking sucked. All right? It sucked. It wasn't that good. The motion controls weren't that great. The only thing, here's the thing. I bought it excited because there was a new generation coming out, and I was like, I'm going to get back into Nintendo. And number one, the Wii promised like third-party games that were actually for adults. And then then they censored them all. They censored all of them.
Yeah.
There was nothing. So like there was that, which really irritated me. I was like, motion gaming for the adult, that would be cool. But I was like, whatever, fine. Own the system. There was no good actual games for it other than Twilight Princess, in my opinion, and Mario Galaxy, which I did play the fuck out of those games. But other than that, the only thing I played was on the fucking Nintendo arcade. So it was just me buying old Nintendo and Sega Genesis games to play them again on a fucking $500 system. I ended up selling it so that I could get an Xbox. I hated every experience I had with the Wii. It was a waste of my time. It was a waste of my money. When all of the features of the 360 and the PlayStation 3 started to kind of come out, we didn't get any of that shit. You couldn't do Netflix on it. You couldn't do any streaming on it. You really couldn't play like DVDs on it. Fucking Wii sucked. And I'm going to say something else. The motion controls actually weren't that good. You had to have the right amount of space, and I was always living out of somebody's room. But they never tell you that. So they weren't that great for me. It was the worst console decision I ever made. Like I said, I ended up selling it out of my trunk to my manager so that he could give it to his kids. And like everybody who has fond memories of that system, okay? I want to ask you what games you actually remember from it. Because I'm going to tell you what games you actually remember from it. Twilight Princess, Mario Galaxy, and the fucking Wii Sports Collection that came with it. Other than that, you fucked off. Nothing on that system was good. So, like, yeah, I hated the Wii. It was my biggest mistake as far as a console purchase in my history. Hot take, I think the Wii actually sucked as a system, personally.
I can see those. I can definitely see those criticisms. especially when you have a lot of these other like first party games, like, you know, something like Metroid Prime Trilogy. The first and second games had standard controls, and then surprise, the third one, you're just waggling around everywhere. Yep. I remember literally having to play that game standing up, which was cool, to be fair, because there were some points when I'm juking around and like doing stuff and like throwing out like the grapple beam and stuff. I'm like, oh wow, it's actually like I'm kind of doing something. It's like I could get the immersion part of it a little bit. But it was the motion controls being forced into stuff that didn't necessarily need to be there. Yeah. Like yet another Metroid game, Metroid Other M, to where a game that would very much have benefited from playing with like a standard controller. Yeah. It forced you to use just the Wiimote and hold it sideways, and how you were holding it dictated what you needed to do. And there was sometimes it just didn't do what it needed to do. That was the one big gripe that I had at the end of Skyward Sword. I didn't necessarily hate Skyward Sword except for the last boss fight, because you had to do this thing where you hold the Wiimote up in the air and hold it so it would charge a certain amount, so that way you could actually go through and hit demise with it. But it didn't always necessarily read that, so right when you were about to finish off, then it would be like, oh nope, and like pull it down and you'd miss your windows.
And Skyward Sword was later in the console life, if I recall. Like Twilight Princess
was the improved motion controls too, which is even worse.
Right. It was later in the Wii's lifespan. I had already sold it at that point. The other thing is it had the two worst Sonic games on it. Like they promised Sonic games for it, but you got Secret Rings and Black Knight, and they were fucking atrocious games. Just the worst fucking bullshit. Like, they were basically mobile games. The other thing is, the motion controls, you talk about immersion, and like, the first time I played a game, I played Red Steel, which was like their launch game, which was, they're like, it's an adult game. It's a terrible game. It's not that great, but it's like a first-person shooter where you can have like dual wielding and melee things. And like, the biggest problem with it was the melee was like impossible to fucking do. But like in it, like I was like, oh, this is immersive. And then at some point, I looked down and just realized that like I'm just flapping my hands around. Like everything I'm doing looks like I'm making fun of somebody for masturbating. That's what it looks like. Like I'm doing the like jerk off motion. Everything I'm doing, I'm like, am I just mocking somebody? Like, how is this immersion? Me like playing air drums. Like it just, like, the only thing that was really immersive to me that actually worked was the, like, Wii Sports thing, because you actually had to get up and get in a golf stance and do the golf swing. But, like, that's only useful if you have people at your house. Like, internet gaming, like, actual online versus had only really started to get big at this point. So, like, there wasn't a ton of games that you went online to like fight people with, and we didn't have shit in the way of that. So that's all you had was like, if people were over, you could golf. Otherwise, you golfed against yourself. Oh, that's fun. You know, nothing's more fun than a game of digital golf by yourself. I might as well drink 5 beers and jump off a bridge, because that's what my life is. Like, that's fucking terrible. I hated the Wii, man. I hated it.
You know, and if it wasn't for the GameCube backwards compatibility, I think that this would be on my list as well. Yeah. Because my GameCube, my optical drive went out on it, and I couldn't play anything. Now, if I did regret anything from the Wii, it was buying those dumb attachments that made it look like you were actually using the sports equipment for the various things, like the little golf club and tennis racket and stuff like that.
Oh, I remember. They loved it. They were like, "Oh, put this on. Now you're doing the thing." No, I'm not. What is wrong with you? Yeah.
Consoles wise, actually, I'll tell you, I think one that I can say with enough confidence that my console regret was probably my PS3 twice. Because the first time I got it, there were no games for it, and I sold it to you.
Yeah.
And then a time later, after Kayla and I moved down to Kentucky, when I was down there, I was like, man, you know what? I want to get a PS3 again because it's like there's games out now for it. And I ended up picking up. It was a broken PS3 that I ended up fixing, and I got the games that I got were it was God of War 3, which to be fair was like an actual game for it. But outside of that, it was the Uncharted games that I never actually played until I played them on PS4 in the collection. And the Kingdom Hearts collections, which I already had anyways on the PS2/PSP. So what was the point in that? And the Final Fantasy X remaster that I already had Final Fantasy X and X-2 on PS2 anyways. That was my whole collection of PS3 games. And like now, like objectively thinking about it, maybe there is a reason why I didn't even get an actual 6-axis controller. Yeah. I just got some rando third-party wireless controller that was like so impossible to use sometimes. I have not. I can't even remember. I can't even remember playing the PS3. Like
I played on PS3. I played like 2 games on PS3 after I bought it from you, and then I sold it. Like it was like I sold it for like $150 or something like that. Like it was, anything I could get that I wanted, I could get from my Xbox. Mm-hmm. I just get it from my Xbox, and if I'm streaming, I'm just gonna stream on my Xbox. So what did PlayStation have that like the only thing they had was their exclusives, right? But at the time, none of their exclusives interested me in any way, shape, or form, except for Infamous. So I played Infamous 2. I got to the end. I hated the end. So I was like, okay, I hate this. And so I got rid of it. And then I was like, there's no reason to have this in my house anymore. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So like, let's just get it the fuck out of here. My gaming regret, I've always had a problem where, like, I mean, the last couple of years it's not as bad, but, like, back when pre-orders were first starting as a thing, like, every game I pre-ordered was a horrible, embarrassing failure for some reason. And it was like I would get really excited, and I'd be like, I'm going to pre-order this shit. And then I'd pre-order it, I'd get it home, and I'd be like, this is awful. The TNA wrestling video game. This was back in the day when TNA had first gotten popular, right? So, like, for non-wrestling fans out there, after WWE bought WCW and bought them in, they had no competition for a few years, and then TNA came on the spot, which was owned by an oil conglomerate, if you can believe it, and a wrestler named Jeff Jarrett and his father. I really got into TNA. I like TNA. TNA came up as like an actual like competitor for WWE for a while. Then they hired Hulk Hogan and he ruined everything. That being said, though, at the height of its popularity, they were like, we're going to compete with WWE, which was SmackDown versus Raw at the time. We're going to compete with their games. We're going to make a new wrestling game alternative. And they made the TNA game, and it was awful. First of all, the moves were all unlocked through play. So when you went to make your character, you could make him, but you couldn't actually assign the moves that you wanted him to have. Like, the only thing you could give him was punches and kicks and a vertical suplex. So that's his finisher, that's his signatures, and everything. Punch, kick, vertical suplex. That's it. It was terrible. The controls were bad. It was not great. There was like this storyline, but it had you actually doing stuff like outside a wrestling ring, like walking around a city and stuff. It was fucking terrible. It was terrible. It was along the lines of the horrible, embarrassing failure that Tony Khan won't let die, which is the AEW Fight Forever video game. But it was awful, man. I walked to the store to get this. I walked a mile to pre-order it. Then I walked a mile to get it on the day that it came out. And it was just the worst thing that I had ever played.
That is the absolute worst. Honestly, just to kind of piggyback a little bit off of that, like,
go for it.
I think one of the worst game purchases I've ever made has got to be our very first Xbox One game that we purchased was Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh.
I guess it's a popular game still now or something. I don't know.
MMO, MMO all the way.
I definitely I had enough distance from the last time I had any sort of experience with an MMO to be like, look, maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe my tastes have changed. Maybe this is something different. Mm-hmm. It's Elder Scrolls. I love Skyrim. This is the best thing ever. I'm just going to go online and play Skyrim, but there's going to be other people running around. Absolutely not. I tried so hard. I put 5 hours into that game, trying so hard to get into it, trying so hard to enjoy it. And I think the breaking point for me personally was having across the amount of time that I put into it. It was 3 separate days, and every single time I logged in, it was oh, there's been an update. Rebuild all your character stats and points and stuff. And I'm like, so I got to spend 15 minutes every single time I turn this game on to rebuild my character back to where it was. So it's just a mandatory 15-minute boot up on this.
Eesh.
So, and I'm just I'm over it, and then I just see things 7 characters standing in front of the same chest that's already been opened, and they reset at midnight, it's just
takes you right the fuck out of it. I agree.
Everybody's it's
or when
just
you go to a quest giver and it's these goblins are destroying my field, and then you go and you're fighting the goblins, but it's kill 10 goblins. You kill 10 goblins, there's just still goblins coming. I'm I haven't fixed anything, but he's thanks for saving my fields. I'm there's still fucking goblins everywhere out there, and there's 30 other guys fighting the goblins. It just takes you right out of the magic of it. You know what I mean? It just sucks it right out. All MMOs are like that, and I just can't get into it.
And I still remember driving to that GameStop and picking up that copy of the game, and I was I had to do shopping that day. And I got the game, and I'm looking at it as I'm walking out of the store. I'm I can't even do my shopping that I need to do. I need to go home and play this right now. Right. I was so excited because it's this for me. I'm thinking it was going to be the next Elder Scrolls. I'm thinking it's Elder Scrolls 6 basically.
Yeah, and
it could not have been further from it.
No,
I hated it. Watching Kayla suffer through it was also interesting. She was being stalked by a dude in game who kept messaging her "Are you a girl?"
oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. And she literally kept running away and trying her damnedest to hide. And this guy was just constantly following her until she just finally I just have to quit and never play again, because dude would just never leave her alone.
Oh, that's creepy. I think that they should have done. And I hate to give Fallout 76 any credit, but all MMOs should do that, where there's only where there's a big map and there's only 60 people
or 60 people
allowed in the map, and that's it. That would be great. Then it would feel like things are actually happening. The other thing is, the one thing I liked about Elder Scrolls Online was the fact that you could just do a job, and that's what you could do forever. And I don't know that World of Warcraft is like that, but in Elder Scrolls at one point, the longest run I had with Elder Scrolls Online, I went in and I was I could just forge stuff, and I just became a blacksmith. That's all I did in the game. Is I would go in and I'd spend 3 hours going out into a field, mining ore, coming back, building a new thing to level up that score, to build bigger things. And I was this is amazing. I'm just a blacksmith. That's the only time I've really enjoyed it. But again, when you get into that MMO stuff where just there's so many people just flip-flopping around at all times, it just kind of ruins it, My next gaming regret, again, another pre-order. This one, it's Fable 3. Just so that everybody out there knows,
man.
Fable 1 and Fable 2, regardless of what their promises were and how close or far away they hit those 2 games were 2 of my all-time favorite games, especially in my youth. Fable, I have just played the shit out of it. I've gone through it like 4 or 5 times. Fable 2, same thing. I loved Fable 2. When Fable 2 came out, I was like, oh my god, I can have kids, I can raise them, I can own stores, I can be a mogul. Like, that game had a level of world interaction that a lot of other games don't have, and a lot of other games since don't have, in my opinion. And I just loved Fable 2. I just worshipped Fable 2. I could not wait to play Fable 2. But I played it so much that I was done with it, and then Fable 3 was coming out, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited. I would watch all the, like, media on it. I could not wait for it to come out. Like, it's going to be Fable 2, but more. That's what it's going to be. And now we're going to get to be a king and a prince, but it's Fable 2 still. Super excited about that. To the point where not only did I pre-order it, but I got it the day before, the night before after I got off work, and I called off the day after, like a full day to play it. Man. And at the time I was working at this warehouse that nobody trusted anybody, and everybody was like one step away from a shooting, and so I couldn't just call him and be like, I'm taking a day because I gotta play a video game. Especially my boss. I love him. He's a friend of mine, but he was always very stressed out at this job. So like anything went wrong, he lost his mind. And like I said, he's a nice guy. It just, that job was bad for everybody. So I didn't want to just like straight up tell him like, I'm taking off to play a video game. So I told him my starter didn't work, that my car did not start. I could not make it to work. I have to fix my starter today. I'll be back. And I had fixed enough starters to know exactly how much time and money that would be entailed in doing, you know. Like, it's a complicated enough job that I can't just, like, go to Advanced Auto and be there by noon. But it's not so complicated that I won't be there tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, that's what I came up with. Just got up at the normal time, and this warehouse I'd have to be there at 5 a.m. So I was up at 5:30 just playing this game. I played it till I went to bed. And I was just the whole time I was like, when is this going to become Fable 2? And it just never became Fable 2. It just was such a letdown. It was so terrible. What's even worse is Fable 3 is the only one of the Fable games with actual co-op multiplayer. So Fable 2, for anybody who's never played the Fable games, Fable 2, you could have a friend be in your game, but they like peered as this little helper guy. He almost looked like a bandit thing, and he had very limited. He couldn't bring his character into your world, and vice versa. Fable 3, you could play the game start to finish with another person. They collected their own shit. They collected their own levels. They got to interact with the story in their own way. But the game sucked ass. How did it suck ass? Fable 2. You could like go work at a job, and every job had a different mini game for it to make it feel like you were doing a different job. This one, everything was the exact same mini game. Period. Fable 2, you had a lot of looting. You'd find swords, you'd find weapons, you'd find stuff like that. In this one, you didn't find anything. You had a sword or a weapon, and it leveled up with you, which I know you think sounds cool. It's not. It just means there's no reason to do anything. There's no loot collecting. There's no reason to be in the dungeon. There's no reason to explore in any way, shape, or form, because the only thing you're collecting is potions and money. On top of that, you think, oh, well, maybe the build system will be cool. Like 2 had a great build system. Nope. You go to this ethereal palace where you like randomly pick a chest, and that chest levels you up in a certain area that's like inconsequential. I'm like, oh my god, this is just the whole time. Then you get to the second half of the game, which is you actually ruling over a kingdom, and it's unwinnable. It is one of the most torturous, terrible experiences I have ever had in the game. Because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, Fable was really big on the good, the morality system, right? If you were bad things happen, you know, if you're good things happen, that sort of thing. But it didn't mean that you got a bad ending. It just meant you got a selfish ending or a good ending or like a hero ending. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't necessarily mean certain things. In this one, if you are good, if you make if you keep all the promises like a good person, you get the worst ending in the game. the only way to get the good ending is to be a fucking awful piece of shit the entire time. I was so mad at this game by the end of it that I was like, I never want to see this game again. I'm so mad. Like, this is such a letdown from Fable 2.
Yeah, I remember, because I was the same way. Like, I had never played a Fable game until 2, and I remember being up in culinary school, and one of our friends in the group bought an Xbox 360 and picked up Fable, and we would just watch him play it in awe. And it's like, wow. Like, we all had our own saves. We basically would all fight over who would get the Xbox 360 to play through their save and everything like that. So then after that, and I peeled off on my own and got my own Xbox 360, reading stuff about Fable 3 was just like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember I still remember reading the part where they're talking about, like, all the games, you're the powerful at the very end of the game. What would happen if that happened in the middle of the game? You actually got to experience this and rule over the kingdom. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. So I can be the king and protected at the same time. Right. And then we get to the point where there's like that whole weird year that's really only boils down to 4 choices and doesn't give you a heads up when you're progressing the story. Going through that, and I'm like, at the very beginning of this, I'm like, okay, this is it, man. This is it. This is where I get to, like, the game changes, and this is what was promised. And I remember finishing it and, like, the credits rolling, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I just got done with an entirely different game that was just kind of stopped. Yep. Overall. Yeah, that one hurt a lot. It was a lot. That's why I feel like this new Fable reboot that they're doing, like, I want it so bad, but I am so deeply scarred from what 3 was. And then, to make things worse, the 2 other games that they had, well, one of them they didn't fully release. There was the on-rail shooter one for the Kinect, which was, oh dear God, an absolute atrocity. It's just generic as generic can be. And then they started, there was Fable, I think it was Fable Legends, like the side-scrolling...
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
Beat 'em up one.
Yeah, it was like
and then they had in the works another one where it was like, this was right when Lionhead got shut down, where it was an asymmetrical 4v1 or 3v1
the word
thing.
On the street is there is a completed playable copy of that. That's how close they were to releasing that. The asymmetrical one. And like,
that would have been interesting today.
Honestly, I would have played it. I was okay with the asymmetric one. I was like, that's not exactly the Fable I want, but I'll give it a shot. The only other Fable project that you're missing that I really loved that only lasted for like a cup of coffee was the card game. I don't know if you remember, they released a collectible card game for I think it was Xbox, but it was a digital collectible card game.
I think I remember this.
Fucking loved that game. That game was so much fun. So much fun. It was just simple, but it had the complex elements. It was so cool. I can't remember what it was called, but I played that until that got shut down, and it took I feel like that was only up for like a year. But I loved that game.
I'm looking to see. I'm looking to see if I can pull that Fable Fortune. Yeah, I remember this.
There you go.
Yeah, I remember this now.
That one was awesome.
Yeah,
I love that game. Okay, so do we have any other regrets that we want to share?
I have 2 more.
All right, go for it.
They're relatively quick.
I know a lot of people are expecting me to say like Anthem and Skull and Bones, but I'm sorry, I got my play out of Skull and Bones, and same with Anthem. Anthem, I don't have a regret. I have a sorrow that they didn't put the time in for the 2.0, but I don't regret either purchase.
And that was like in the time of the like No Man's Sky proved that it could be a success story if you put the work into it.
Yeah, and they kept saying they were going to do that, and then they shut them down when they finally were starting on it,
So I have 2 more. One of them, building my PC when I did.
Yeah.
worst possible timing to do it, man. And it all comes down to, I mean, even my CPU, like my CPU was kind of up there, but like it's especially that graphics card, because now like I have a 2060. I mean, it's fine. I haven't really come up across anything. I think, what was it? Redfall was the only thing I had to kick down from highest settings that we've played so far. You fucking Redfall. But I mean, outside of that, like within the next year to probably closer to 2 years, I'm gonna have to get a new graphics card. It's just the way that it is. I spent like $600 on this 2060 when I bought it 2 years ago, because it was in the middle of the chip shortage and nobody anything. I tried my damnedest at the Newegg Shuffle and everything else.
Had everything but the graphics
everything.
card.
I had everything but the card, and I was trying so hard, so hard to get anything that I could, because I wanted at least a 3060, 3070 ideally, because that's kind of what I built everything around, but it's just not in the cards. And now, like, what? Okay, I can spend $300 to buy a used 3060, or at this point, a 4070 goes for about $450, $500. So then it's like buying a new console, and then I'll be good for a number of years. I am in a bad spot with it, and there's just nothing I can do. I can't even turn around and sell it now, because if I do, I maybe get, if I'm lucky, $200 out of it.
Yeah, 2060 sucks, because 2060 is just below the space that I'd say you're kind of future-proof, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to tell you right now, I got a 5600 XT AMD in here. I'm going to see how long this thing rides. I'm not going to lie. I am not going to change this until I absolutely feel that I have to change it, because I still think that I'm not going to need to change this. I think I'll have to potato a couple of games, but overall, I don't think the graphical improvements are ever going to be what I need to change this. I just don't. I think we are well past the singularity where that kind of like improvement is required anymore. To this day, there is only one game who has said in their minimum requirements that is a 5700 or higher, and that game played just fucking fine on my 5600. That was Starfield. Like, I mean, well, it didn't play just fucking fine, but it didn't play just fucking fine for anybody. So like, I think that like I'm gonna see how long this lasts, because I really don't think that we're getting 2060 little low. I get what you're saying. I'm gonna see where this sucker goes. I'm gonna see where it takes me, because I don't necessarily think that I'm going to ever really need to change this.
Yeah, I feel like, like you said, I think it's going to come down to, with where games are going now, you're really only going to need to kick anything up if you need a new monitor and you want to get like a higher refresh rate for a smoother gameplay. Outside of that, and then at what point does it come imperceptible, you know?
I feel like my computer will break down before such time as I will actually require a new graphics card. The only improvement I want to make to this computer is my SSD, because I've got a 512 gigabytes, and it's getting real hard to do shit. Like, really hard.
I am very glad that I have in my computer, I have multiple drives. I got the OS on a 500 gig SSD. That's the only thing that goes on it. I got my terabyte NVMe where I put my actual games, and then I have a 2 terabyte spinning and a 1 terabyte spinning for various backups. I
have a huge spinning. I have like a 10 terabyte spinning, but like it's not, you can't put anything on spinnings anymore. Like the new stuff, you have to put them on SSDs. And I got like what I'm hoping for. The only regret in building my PC is when we bought the motherboards. We bought a motherboard without a second SSD slot. Because when the time comes for me to upgrade, I will have to like move everything on my computer to my spinning, and then install it, then everything back. It's going to be a day of back and forth, but overall that's not that big of a deal. But it would have been nice to just plug another one in and be like, we're good to go, you know. But yeah, like other than that, I'm going to get a 2 terabyte SSD. I don't think I'll need anything else for a long time.
No,
Like, I truly think this computer will break down before it gets to a point where my specs can't run shit anymore. Like,
actually, now that we're talking about it, carry on. I'm just thinking about something. I'm curious in general. Like my terabyte NVMe, I have some games installed on here. I mean, I'm just at the halfway threshold.
Yeah. Like it's like I'm constantly doing a dance with my SSD right now, whereas I mean, I'm looking forward to the day where I don't have to do that. You guys said one more regret, and then we really got to get to the news because we're starting on late here.
Last one is because we're old and just full of regrets.
Yes.
The last one, I feel like it's just on the edge, but I think it's enough that I think I may regret my Elite controller.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, don't get me wrong, it's good for Halo and stuff like that, but like I've also encountered stuff like when I played Final Fantasy 15. When I'm playing Final Fantasy 15 on the Xbox, those hair triggers, what they don't tell you is, depending on the game that you're playing, it doesn't actually actuate all the way. Mm-hmm. I spent this 1 point, actually multiple points, thinking that the maximum speed that car drove in Final Fantasy 15 was like 10 miles an hour because it didn't actually go all the way down because I had the hair triggers on for when I played competitive shooters. I mean, from there, for the actual benefits that you get, the mappable buttons I thought was going to be a thing. I never use the mappable buttons, especially now that I've changed my main control scheme with how I play Halo. That was the main thing. I basically bought that controller for Halo and competitive gaming, and it's like I really don't do that sort of stuff. I was really in it at one point in time, but I mean, for spending almost $200 on a controller, and then actually still having to get a second one, because I think I told you that story about how the dog chewed the first one, and Best Buy wouldn't honor their warranty.
Expensive.
So expensive.
It was, and controllers are made out of fucking cardboard nowadays. I go through a controller or two a year.
Still no rechargeable batteries.
No rechargeable batteries.
Well, except in the new Elite.
In fairness, for me, I do plugins now. I don't even fuck around with the wireless. I do straight wired to my PC.
On my PC, yeah.
And honestly, I'm rocking an Elite, but the Elite version, the wired Elite version is the Wolverine V2, which is usually, that's the other thing about the wired controllers, is they're $50.
You and I got the same thing.
It's a fucking badass controller. It's way cheaper than an Elite. The other thing is, too, I would still never pay what they want for that controller. I only ever get this stuff when I can get it on an auction site or cheaper. Because these controllers, they go bad so fast. This is my third Elite controller. My third Wolverine Razor V2 or whatever. How? How is it 3 in 4 fucking years? And then you add in the fact that I've also gone through 2 other controllers. Controllers are made out of shit nowadays. They go bad so fast. The drift happens so fast. The button presses happen so fast. It's infuriating how quickly these things go bad and how expensive they are. All right. Regrets out of the way. Let's get into the news, man. Let's try and get this fucking show done before my birthday, for fuck's sake. All right. Going...
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our final segment, the news. This is where Neil likes to let us know about the news in the video gaming world. We riff about it, we talk about it. So let's get into it, Neil. How many we got for us today?
I am still pulling up the paper.
Okay.
There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's the one that you had mentioned to me.
God.
7.
So I'm making it 7.
Yeah. Well, some of them are pretty quick anyway. Okay. So
I'll start with mine and get it out of the way, if that's all right. So I know you guys all. I have talked about the fact that I am part of a class action lawsuit against Steam. The whole class action lawsuit is about Steam basically raising the price of games without actually giving any people money for it. Basically, basically inflating the price of games. That's what the lawsuit is about. Artificially inflating it. It is hysterical now, but Valve has decided to change their terms and conditions. And the terms and conditions specifically would say that no longer will they use arbitration for any legal disputes, but all legal disputes will go through the court system, which is actually weird because it's actually way more expensive to do it through the court system than it is to do it through arbitration. Nonetheless, a lot of the people in the class action lawsuit are already in arbitration for this, myself included. So then I get an email from the people representing everybody in the class action lawsuit like, hey, we have received many emails about the new terms and conditions of Valve. We recommend that you agree to them. If you are already in arbitration, that arbitration must finish. And if you are not, we will continue to represent you until you get paid. But we know that your Steam library is valuable to you, and we don't want you to lose that. And the only way to not agree to these terms and services is to delete your Steam account. But it's hysterical to see both ends. That, like, very obviously Valve reacts to one and then the lawyers react to the other. But yeah, so if you are a Steam person, they will only do it through the court now. They will no longer do it through arbitration.
Well, you know what? Something relatively related. That's one of the things that I have on this list here.
Twofer.
I don't know if you had seen or not. California is actually it has a law in the works requiring game companies to change the wording on digital purchases on digital storefronts to explicitly clarify that it is a license that you are purchasing and that you do not physically own anything.
Good.
Yeah, which is
this going to stop people from buying it? No.
No, 100%.
From losing access to it? No. But you should certainly know that it is not your property when you purchase it, and they don't say that. They say it's yours, you know?
Yeah, well, and to be clear, this refers to, like, whenever you go, it's not like buried in the end user license agreement. It's like, it's like gonna force them to put on the storefront instead of buy or purchase. It will say like license or purchase something license, like that. Yeah. So that way, it's like, okay, like it's in the forefront, because I feel like there are still people out there who are not super aware of this. However, what's interesting is with this law, it's not going to change anything with physical copies of the game, which is it's fine, okay, but you know, you get in that weird gray area of what about games that are constantly online? Mm-hmm. You know, like they pull the plug on that, then what? I have a copy of Destiny upstairs. What is that for me?
Well, yeah, same here. I got it. It is just a disc. It is a disc with some data on it. I think that, and what you said, gaming is so big, but it also attracts such a huge amount of casual fans that the collective awareness of gamers as consumers is very low. And that is how these companies are able to be as predatory as they are with this kind of shit. And it's very frustrating. So I'm glad that they're doing this because, the awareness isn't there. You're not really realizing what you're getting into. A lot of gamers are not realizing what they're getting into, you know?
Mm-hmm. So, going along here, it's relatively light for the most part with, you know, various newsy things like story tonally, except for this one. Sony is Sonying yet again. I'm going to sneeze.
He'll do it for that, but he won't hide the yawn. Fucking ass.
I do. I had like I do like.
I watched you just yawn in camera. That's why I was yelling at you.
I was trying. I always try to like do one of these things. That's why part of the reason why the microphone's like directly in front of my face. I'm not going for like a Wilson thing. I'm just like
nobody knows what your nose looks like.
Shout out to you if you get that reference. Also,
Right,
I think you're not
right.
our target demographic if you know who Wilson is.
Yeah, that's true. If you know who Wilson is, you've stumbled into this by accident. We really show our age.
You're in the wrong spot. To you, I say, huh?
Yeah. If you were wondering if I was 43, I know who Wilson is. No, he's not Tom Hanks' volleyball. All right.
God. Anyways. So, I don't know if you saw or not, they announced a remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn because reasons.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, we're not far enough away from that. I mean, even in a side-by-side video, they showed it. It's like, fine, I guess, but like, it's not like it's leaning on nostalgia. If it was like 7 years from now, and they say, hey, Horizon Zero Dawn remaster, yeah, you know what? Sign me up. I'm good for that. This game came out, what was it? 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something
Not
along
that
those
long.
lines.
Yeah.
6 tops.
So
So yeah, it's one of those things like whatever. But what's really shitty is they increased the base price of the game from $20 to $40. The base game, the original version, not the remaster. So they're selling the remaster. Here's why. They're selling the remaster for $50. However, if you have the original version, for $10, you can upgrade to the remaster version. So they are proactively closing a loophole that would allow you to buy the game for $20 and then upgrade it for another $10 for $30. $30 is the most this thing should cost anyways at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fucking rematch. It's the same game, but it's just an old game. Like, what are they possibly remastering of this? We're getting into the place where a remaster is supposed to be, hey, this game that couldn't have good graphics, that couldn't have these elements of the story, we have put it into the new world, like Resident Evil 2 or like Super Mario RPG, like that kind of stuff. That's what a remaster is. Making a game that already exists and then just making it again and being like, it's new now, $50. It is the fucking biggest load of turd bullshit. Oh, man. Have fun with your $50 game that's 7 years old and your fucking $700 system, Sony, because I don't think you're going to be existing for the next 10 years. I think you're going to be out of here.
Yeah, I for the life of me, like, I get from where they're coming from, but I don't know. Maybe don't do an upgrade path then. I don't know what their deal is with that. Yeah.
Like, don't do this. Like, don't remaster it. The game is still out there being sold to people. The fuck are you remastering it for? Like,
plus, on top of that,
can't you play the old one on the new system too? Isn't it like backwards?
Yes, and
what are we doing?
And I was about to say, if you play it on a PS5, you'll actually get the PS4 Pro improvements, which is the higher frame rate and everything like that, and the improved visuals that came along with that anyways. So you already have your own remaster anyways.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
There's no reason for this. This game, the game isn't missing anything. There's no reason to remaster it and sell it again, other than just trying to get people to buy the same game twice. Like, there wasn't even enough DLC. You know what I mean? Like, if you buy it on the PC, you get the DLC with it. I have the DLC with it when I bought the original game. So there's not even you can't even package this with something. At least when Skyrim comes out with another one of their fucking bullshit remasters, they put something new in it. This is insane. This is just the same fucking game.
On the
same system, you can still play the game on the system. Oh my god, I'm gonna wake my kid up. I'm so mad right now.
Even if let's just say it's a special PS5 Pro version that'll run that game at 8K and like, I don't know, like 90 frames or 120 frames a second, whatever makes it so it's not broken. Yeah, fine. Even that I can see. Okay, I mean, not for me, but I can see the justification.
Something,
but it is the kicking the old version up.
Yeah.
So that it can close a loophole.
I'll be surprised.
They're basically it's the same thing as how they delist old versions of games when they go to do a collection somewhere. Yeah. So you can't just get what you actually want for a cheaper price. You have to get it how they want to present it to you.
It's just fucking stupid. Yeah.
So, moving along here.
Move on to ad now.
Yeah, well, let's be sad.
Right.
Skyrim Grandma's quitting.
Yes. I know.
Yeah.
I saw.
Which, to be fair to her, I mean, she's been doing it for a while, and she felt like that she's just obligated to play the game. She doesn't find the joy in playing the game and doing the video editing and everything like that was required to put those up. She just doesn't enjoy it anymore. And you know what? Welcome to being a gamer.
I mean, ladies in her 90s.
Yeah.
Like, she's played this game for 10 years. She even said, like, I don't make money off this. I just do it to do it. You know, this was like a fun thing that I was doing, you know? So, like, if it's not fun for you, don't do it. Like, it's just, I don't bear her any ill will, that's for sure.
No, I'm
glad for all the time she gave to the game, you know?
I only hope that she can at least see Elder Scrolls 6.
Nah, never gonna happen, man.
I don't think it's
coming
gonna
out for
happen.
another 12 years. What are you, nuts?
Yeah, it's fair.
If at all.
Yeah, just like Fable was supposed to be out 3 years ago. You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the rest of these are just fucking weird.
Okay. Bring them up.
So
bring on that weird shit.
Some people may be aware of Top Golf, the place where you can spend exorbitant amounts of money and fire a ball from a second or third story section of a building out into a field.
Yes, I've been there twice.
Yes, and not to be absolutely fair, even though I just talked the maddest shit about it just now.
It's fun.
It is fun, but it is just ludicrously expensive and impossible to just walk in and do. You have to plan it out like months in advance and have reservations and
everything. Both times were a party of some sort that I was invited to, and it was fun. It was just super expensive.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. We actually were fortunate enough. We got to play it and. We got to play it in a thunderstorm, which is even better.
Oh, that's awesome.
We went over Independence.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But they're actually getting a Sonic game that's going to be at Top Golf that is somehow Sonic based off of your golf swings.
I don't understand that.
There wasn't even any like description of it in the article that I was about it. It was strictly just Top Golf but Sonic. Like, what? And it's just like it somehow reads your golf swings, and it probably has something to do with how it tracks the ball too, to see like how far you drive it.
I thought they were doing a crossover with Fortnite.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Everybody's doing Fortnite now. I'm just gonna look it up real quick just because.
It's so much fun to live in a dystopia. All right. Weird future dystopia.
Top Golf. Top Golf Fortnite. Yep.
That's what I thought you were going to talk about.
They're doing Top Golf and Fortnite. Yeah, that's because why not?
Top Golf feels like the next company that like comes out of nowhere and then destroys itself within 5 years. Like every once in a while there's this company where like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then they just go too hard too fast, and then they're like, and now we're bankrupt, you know? Like fucking Movie Pass and shit like that.
Movie Pass.
So what's next?
So the head of the UK's Department of Defense has put an official call out to coders and gamers directly for their skills.
I'm very confused by that.
Yeah, well, apparently what they want is obviously coders, because, the technology aspect of everything. And in a military, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But they want gamers for their hand-eye coordination skills for, like, flying drones and stuff like that. But
hey, are you okay with murdering somebody from half a world away?
From the safety of your own bedroom.
Do you like Fortnite, and are you a sociopath? Well, come on down.
I just see some dude somewhere in his bedroom dropping a nuke, just winner chicken dinner.
Right, yeah.
And then half of a small country is gone. Oh God.
Get good, China.
And the last and possibly weirdest one out of all of these is KFC is doing a crossover collaboration with Genshin in the Hoyoverse stuff.
Oh my God.
There is a trailer up for it. There is an anime intro for Colonel Sanders in Genshin Impact.
Can I just say, KFC is one of the craziest branding. Like, whoever does the branding on KFC, like with their Arby's too. Arby's shit. Like the KFC. You remember the KFC romance where it was like it was an actual full playable video game where you try and romance an anime version of Colonel Sanders in like a visual novel. Like. They are fucking lunatics over there. Or the one that they made a working console that also cooks fried chicken.
Yes.
Like, they're fucking nuts. They're fucking nuts. Also, I don't feel like KFC is that popular to have that much money to just throw weird shit at a wall like this, but apparently.
So, from what I understand, internationally, KFC is like kind of up there with like McDonald's and shit.
Really?
I think it's especially in. I was watching this news article about it before. I believe it's over in China. It's like a holiday thing.
Really?
Like for Christmas, you get KFC.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a whole thing.
That's hysterical to me. That's hysterical. So that's it then.
That is it.
Let's wrap this monster up and go to sleep.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, would you like to plug anything?
We are getting ready to fight a car.
Yes. Ordo Scriptorium. The second toast.
I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I'll just leave it at that.
Maybe
I'll just leave it at that. Just like for the uninitiated, be like, oh, okay. Is there a gas leak at his house?
We're trying to make it for the spooky season. I don't know if we will. Maybe
I don't know if it's going to make it for spooky season.
If we could get 3 episodes before the last week of October, then I'll post the first one. But like, I don't want to post the first one when we only have like 1 or 2 in the bank, just in case we can't make it work. I don't want interruption. But nonetheless, Ordo Scriptorium Season 2, we're working on that. That is coming. It is very exciting. The role-playing is really good. I'm very excited to be a part of it. Speaking of Genshin Impact, I actually did a review of it. I think it goes up. I think it should be up by the time you are hearing or listening to this or watching this. I also did a review for Double Dragon Gaiden, Rise of the Dragons, that's coming out. I'm doing a review for Ara, History Untold. Got a lot of reviews in the chamber. And I did a review for the mobile game, The Elder Scrolls Castles. So check that one out. That one's also up too. We also have all sorts of stuff. We got a lot of TTRPG stuff coming. I've got a new podcast for TTRPGs coming where I just interview somebody about a character they liked or were interested in. I'm going to do you eventually, Neil. And yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming. We have something for you. If you are a TTRPG gamer or a video gamer, we have you covered in some way. So just check out what the channel has to offer. Other than that, One more reminder, Neil will be off the next 2 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, we'll have some weird pre-recorded shows. There won't be any fan interaction, but you will still have shows. So we will see you guys then. Other than that, you can reach us on Facebook at OhMyGamingDH, on X, on OhMyGaming9. You can join our Discord. Links in the description below. Influence us in all of our shows from there. As long as you guys keep watching and listening, we shall endeavor to keep making them. We'll see you guys next time. Okay. So, you saw the Misney stuff, right?
I looked at it very briefly, but yes, I cannot believe that a lawyer has merch. Like,
anybody out there, if this makes the show, and I'm going to do everything in my power for this to make the show, because we've mentioned Tim Misney too much in this show to not make it. If you want to know what we're talking about, it's called MisneyMerch.com. M-I-S, right? M-I-S-A-Y? Misney? No, M-I-S-N-Y merch.com. Go there. That's what we're talking about.
Misney to the max!
He has t-shirts, clocks, bibs that he sells, all with his face and his weird eyebrows.
An Andy Warhol inspired shirt.
That's a billboard. That's in Akron. I saw that the other day. That's a new one that is like Andy Warhol with him and the face. And then did you see that? There's one that's a bib that's like my parents can feed me because Mindy make them pay. It rhymes somehow. No, my parents are A-okay terrible. Because Misney made them pay.
That is so bad.
It's terrible. There's one where it's him and his point and his eyebrow, and there's just like a photoshopped Santa hat on top of his head, like so for the Christmas lovers.
I only see three things.
There's more than that, man.
Unless there's...
I went all the way through that.
Hold on.
You need to ask your wife because she went through it too. There's definitely a lot more than 3 things.
Let me see something, because I wonder if they're all like... Yeah, I don't know. I only see 3 things.
There's more than 3. Trust
I wonder if it's because he's doing a half-off sale right now. He's just sold out.
But yeah. So everybody out there, if you want to see what we're talking about with this lawyer... That's how you check it out. Also, side note, he doesn't always make them pay. The only reason I know about that website, I'm not naming names, but the only reason I know about that website is somebody I know talked to somebody who actually went to Tim Misney with a case, and Misney refused them because it wouldn't make Tim Misney enough money.
Good.
So he only makes them pay if he gets paid.
He would be excellent.
Yes, that's exactly the douchebag.
He makes them pay if you get paid.
Right. Okay.